We all love optimization. It promises progress, efficiency, and better results. When we optimize a system, waste gets cut down, processes get streamlined, and everything seems more predictable. At first glance, optimization looks like a win-win, but have you ever stopped to think about what we might be losing in the process? Over time, something subtle but significant happens. Optimization starts to change how we make decisions. Human judgment, which used to be at the heart of everything, gets pushed to the side. It's not that anyone openly says, "We don't need your judgment anymore." It happens because optimized systems change what gets rewarded, what gets trusted, and what's even allowed. Understanding this shift is crucial for anyone working in today's world, because it affects all of us. Let's start with a core idea. Optimization is all about reducing variation. From a systems point of view, variation looks like a problem. It's messy and inefficient. Different choices and different outcomes create uncertainty. So, optimization works to standardize behavior to get reliable, consistent results. Standardization is great for predictability, but it also shrinks the space for acceptable decisions. Human judgment, on the other hand, thrives in variation. It relies on context, nuance, and understanding the specific situation. When you squeeze out variation, you squeeze out the room for judgment to operate. Slowly but surely, the expectation becomes, just follow the optimized path. Don't worry about the context. This leads to the next point. Optimized systems prefer rules over judgment. Think about it, judgment is messy and hard to write down in a set of instructions. Rules, however, are simple. They're easy to define, copy, and enforce. So, systems that are built for optimization will always favor rules and procedures over letting people use their own discretion. It often starts with good intentions. Rules are created to support judgment, to give guidance and prevent obvious mistakes. But as the drive for optimization gets stronger, the rules start to replace judgment altogether. Success is no longer about making a wise decision. It's about following the process correctly. Judgment goes from being a valuable asset to being seen as a source of risk. And how does this happen? Through measurement. Optimization runs on data. You can only optimize what you can measure. So, metrics become the definition of success. They guide every improvement and become the main point of reference for every decision. But here's the problem. Human judgment deals with things that are incredibly hard to measure. Things like long-term consequences, ethical trade-offs, and the sheer uncertainty of the future. When a system is obsessed with optimization, these unmeasurable factors start to lose their importance. Decisions get justified with numbers and charts, not with deep reasoning. If you can't put a number on it, it becomes very difficult to defend. What gets rewarded in these systems? Consistency, not insight. Optimized systems love it when you do the same thing, the same way, every single time. Consistency makes things efficient and smooth. But true insight often comes from deviating from the norm. It comes from recognizing that the standard approach just isn't right for this particular situation. In a highly optimized world, any deviation is seen as a problem. Even if your gut and your experience tell you to do something different, the pressure to stick to the optimized path is immense. So, people quickly learn that it's safer to be consistent than to be insightful. This behavior is then reinforced by feedback loops. Optimized systems are built on fast feedback. Performance is constantly monitored, and outcomes are evaluated almost instantly. This rapid feedback loop reinforces the optimized patterns. Actions that fit the metrics get a thumbs up and are repeated. Actions that rely on judgment and produce less predictable results get penalized. The problem is, good judgment needs time. It needs reflection. But optimization demands speed and conformity. As the feedback loop gets faster and faster, judgment is simply squeezed out of the process. The final stage of this whole process is automation. Once a process is perfectly optimized, it's ready to be automated. The decisions that humans used to make are now coded into software and algorithms. At this point, human judgment is almost completely gone from the active process. Even if there's still a person in the loop, their role changes from being a decision maker to being a supervisor. They only step in for the rare, exceptional case. And over time, because people aren't practicing their judgment skills, those skills start to disappear. From the perspective of an optimized system, human judgment is just risk. It introduces uncertainty. Different people might see things differently, leading to inconsistent outcomes. So, the system reframes judgment not as a value, but as a liability. It introduces more controls, more checklists, more approval, layers, all designed to limit individual discretion. Judgment becomes something you have to manage and contain, not something you cultivate and encourage. And what happens when we don't use a skill? It weakens. This is skill atrophy. As systems get more and more optimized, we rely more on the processes, the tools, the automated recommendations. We stop practicing independent reasoning. We lose confidence in our own judgment. We start deferring to the system, even when we suspect it might be wrong. This creates a dangerous cycle. Less judgment leads to more reliance on optimization, which in turn leads to even less judgment. This also shifts our sense of responsibility. When a decision is made by following a rule or an automated prompt, who's responsible for the outcome? The responsibility shifts from the individual to the system itself. We blame the process, not the person. On one hand, this feels safer. People feel less exposed to blame, but it also removes any real accountability for thoughtful decision-making. If no one is expected to think deeply, no one gets rewarded for it either. Judgment becomes invisible. The true cost of losing our judgment becomes painfully clear in edge cases. Optimized systems are great under normal, predictable conditions, but they fall apart when something unexpected happens, something that falls outside the standard parameters. These edge cases demand judgment. They require us to deal with ambiguity, novelty, and conflicting goals. But in a highly optimized environment, people are unprepared. Their judgment skills have faded. The processes offer no help. The failures might seem sudden, but they are the result of a long, slow erosion of our ability to think. Ultimately, optimization encourages compliance over understanding. You are rewarded for following the process correctly. You don't actually have to understand why the process exists in the first place. Over time, people learn how to work the system without ever grasping its purpose. Their decision-making becomes procedural, not thoughtful. And when conditions change, this lack of understanding becomes a huge liability. Judgment requires deep comprehension. Optimization just rewards adherence. The reason we often don't notice this loss of judgment is because the benefits of optimization are so visible. Efficiency goes up, costs go down, output increases. All the metrics on the dashboard look great. These gains can easily mask the deeper, hidden costs to our decision-making quality. As long as everything is running smoothly within its expected range, the absence of judgment doesn't seem like a problem. The real cost only becomes clear when we need to adapt, and by then, it's incredibly difficult to get that judgment back. We need to remember that optimization is not neutral. It's often presented as purely technical and objective, but in reality, it encodes a specific set of values. When a system optimizes for speed and consistency, it is implicitly deprioritizing things like nuance, context, and human judgment. This isn't a moral failure, it's a structural outcome. Recognizing this helps us understand why judgment fades away, even when everyone involved claims to value it. So, what can we do? If we want to preserve judgment, we need to intentionally create space for it. This means building in a bit of friction. It might mean slower feedback loops, to give people time to think. It might mean limiting automation in certain areas, and protecting people's discretion to make their own calls. It means evaluating people based on their reasoning, not just the final outcome. Yes, these choices might reduce efficiency in the short term, but they build long-term adaptability and resilience. We need to separate optimization from authority. A system can provide a recommendation, but a human should have the final say. We have to accept the limits of optimization and have the humility to recognize that efficiency isn't always the most important value. Judgment exists precisely in those complex, ambiguous spaces where optimization fails. In the end, optimization gives us predictability and efficiency, but it does so by trading away human judgment. This isn't driven by some evil plan. It's a natural outcome of the systems we build. If we truly value human judgment, we have to design our systems to protect it deliberately. Otherwise, we'll wake up one day and find that process has completely replaced thinking. Judgment doesn't just vanish overnight. It fades away, little by little, as our world becomes more and more optimized. Thanks for watching. If this got you thinking, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our next video. See you then.